Grateful desert ocotillos in the Anza Borrego Desert are blooming and thriving after a wet winter. Let's watch these beautiful sculptural plants renew and regenerate throughout the desert spring, starting right now. We're starting out on a very cold and blustery day in March. The sun is just starting to come out after a long, wet winter. Desert ocotillos, grateful for the water, have sprouted leaves and just begun blooming. Here, one hardy ocotillo has rooted itself into a bullhead cholla cactus. The sculptural, thorny branches reach upwards towards the blue desert sky. As the days grow longer and warmer, these little green leaves and red flower buds will grow to many times their current size. The late afternoon wind bears down the desert slopes once again. Must be spring in the desert, blowing in the change of seasons. The ocotillos are in full bloom. They're absolutely amazing here in the Anza Borrego Desert State Park. After our historic wet winter that we have had here in California, the desert plant life is springing back after 3 years of absolutely devastating drought. So here we can see an ocotillo that is absolutely thriving. You can see the green leaves, the profuse blossoms, and you can also see the way the bark is splitting at the trunks and the branches. That's because when it's getting these brief rainy seasons, it's growing so fast that it's actually splitting the bark. And then before you know it, we're gonna have summer weather again. Everything will go dormant again. So it really makes you appreciate the plant life all the more in the desert, because when it is green and blooming, it's even in the best year, it's fleeting. So to see all of the ocotillos and all the canyons and slopes and beautiful corners of the Borrego Valley and the Anza Borrego Desert State Park is so special. So if you can get down here from the coast or elsewhere, this is the time. Come in the next couple weeks and listen. A lot of people come down here, but the park is huge, so I'm sure there's room for you too. The sunny, warm weather has finally arrived, and I am so ready for it. Seeing the dark green foliage covering the ocotillos is just incredible. They're thriving after the wet winter. The ocotillos have seen so much growth this year, and the abundant red flowers capping off each branch create an exquisite living sculpture. The flowers are so big and so profuse this year. They're a wonderful source of food for the local wildlife, both the flowers and the fruit. The hummingbirds in particular love the ocotillo nectar. The richness and saturation of the color of the flowers is just incredible. The desert plant life is so resilient, but after the 3 years of devastating drought out here in the Anza Borrego Desert State Park, so many desert plants did not make it. Here's an ocotillo with its incredible desert root structures. This is really a supreme specimen of an ocotillo that just wasn't able to live through those 3 years of absolutely arid, just endless heat. That last summer, we had actually a surface temperature, an average surface temperature here in the state park of around 175 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you can imagine the ground just absolutely cooking all of the plant life, we had a mass die-off of both plant and animal species. So it's incredible that this land here, actually, if you want to pan down to the sage, this is a great example of how the desert land is both living and dying simultaneously. The Anza Borrego Desert State Park is the most vulnerable ecosystem in California. So we're seeing the effects of climate change in real time here, and it's just an incredible blessing to get this very wet winter because it gives the land a little bit of time to bounce back and gives us a little bit more breathing room with the ecosystem here. But if you are going to visit this place, I would do it soon because it is changing, and it's not a guarantee that it'll be this beautiful and this lush in the future.
I love being able to return to this same ocotillo grove every week or so as spring unfolds. Seeing in real time the change in the landscape is so much fun because even in just a week, it can really look different depending on what's green and blooming. Ocotillos are indigenous to the Mojave, Sonoran, Chihuahuan, and Colorado deserts. These tough plants are in a regeneration cycle after the last brutal drought and endless heat waves. Nature is really putting on a show for us this year in the Anza Borrego Desert.
What an incredible spring day in the Anza Borrego Desert State Park here in the San Diego Backcountry Desert. We're having both a spring wildflower bloom and a perennial bloom at the same time. It is just incredible. I just saw on the news yesterday that you can see the California super bloom from space. So this is such a unique time to get out here, and especially to get out to the Anza Borrego Desert State Park to see the absolutely amazing wildflower bloom after our historic wet winter.
Despite the wind, it's beautifully warm today, and the air is crystal clear. Such a wonderful contrast to the smoggy and dust-choked Coachella Valley, 50 miles to the north.
It's a beautiful Sunday in May in the Anza Borrego Desert State Park. You can see that the land is going back to its summer dormant stage. Everything's burning off, and there's only really the perennials left still blooming, but it's so beautiful out here. The air and the wind is so fresh and clear, and it's actually unusually cool for this time of year. Soon it will be very, very hot and much too dangerous to venture out onto the trails in here. So this is a great time to come down and enjoy the Anza Borrego Desert State Park and the San Diego Backcountry Desert. And it is really so beautiful to see the very last bit of the ocotillo bloom. They've lost all their leaves, they're going back to dormant, and they have the flowers, the red flowers, and they'll be fruiting.
I'm soaking in the gorgeous desert mountain panoramas. I love taking videos and photos because I can enjoy the views for so much longer. Any week now, the summer heat will set in, and smart people stay off the trails when it's hot. I'd rather leave the trails to the rattlesnakes who love to sit and warm themselves right on the trails and Jeep roads. Anyway, the San Diego Backcountry Mountains and the beaches of North County, San Diego are just around a few hundred corners or so on the country roads. We're coming to the end of our very windy spring here in the Anza Borrego Desert. It's been absolutely beautiful seeing the land renew and regenerate, and now return again to its monochromatic palette of beiges, tans, and grays.
After an unusually wet winter, we've had an incredible spring super bloom, a wildflower super bloom bloom here in the Anza Borrego Desert State Park, but all the way to the coast, the slopes of the hills, all the open space have just come alive with color. It's been absolutely amazing. And as you can see, that's all going back to its dormant state, where it'll be dormant for a lot longer than it'll be green, that's for sure. And the next time it'll be green out here, maybe will be the summer monsoon. That's another time when we get the wet tropical weather from the south that comes up here. If you've watched all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much. And there's another video that I think you'll really enjoy called Coyote Canyon Overland Adventure. It's a really fun off-road adventure to one of the most pristine wilderness areas in Southern California, Coyote Canyon in the Anza Borrego Desert State Park.